Yeah.
Hey there, YouTube's Chris Holman here. I'm here with Kellie PB Fam, another YouTuber. We've been doing these collaboration live streams for a while. So what we're going to be going over today is the walkaway movement. We're going to be talking about the Mexican election yesterday and its implications. We're going to be talking about the real enemy, what our real enemy is, and of course, a little bit about George Soros, a little bit, how he fits into this. But before we do, well, let me just read this quote here real quick, and then I'll give I owe everyone a retraction. This is a quote from George Soros. "I have made my life's mission to destroy the United States. I hate this country, and I hate all of the people in it." George Soros, Newsweek, 1979. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That is very, very interesting.
Disturbing.
Very disturbing. Indeed. So, I do need to give a retraction. So, in the last stream that Kellie and I did, Kellie had found, it was from Yahoo News, and there was a picture that we had reported was likely, well, that it had been reported that was the shooter, but it actually was not. It actually was one of the staffers that was talking about it. So, again, that is a retraction. That is not the picture of the shooter. Since then, the identity of the shooter has been known. So
that's the reason why it was spread off so quickly. They pulled that picture down.
Yeah, they pulled it down. So again, we apologize to everyone who saw that stream. I have put that video on private. I'm going to do some editing on that as best I can, so that it is no longer misleading. So I probably won't actually cut that out. I'll just put in some subtitles. You know, not a subtitle, but a caption. So we see Mass Faith 3 is here. Share it on our Facebook. Thank you so much, Mass Faith. I appreciate it. So the walkaway movement. Back at the end of May, so it's been a little over a month. And I remember seeing this video, and this started the whole walkaway movement. So I'm going to play this in case you haven't seen this, and if you don't know what hashtag walkaway or hashtag walkaway movement is. So right now, this is blowing up on Twitter, right? These are people who were Democrats, right? And at some point, either recently or in the recent past, because of the just insanity of the left, they have walked away. So let's go ahead. This is hashtag walkaway campaign, why I left liberalism and the Democratic Party.
Once upon a time, I was a liberal. Well, to be honest, less than a year ago, I was still.
Let me pause this real quick, give a disclaimer. The videos that I am going to show are covered under fair use. I do not own any copyright. This is for educational purposes. Enjoy.
A liberal. I became a liberal because I felt I had found a tribe whose values aligned with my own. I staunchly reject racism of any kind. I reject the marginalization of any human being based off of their gender or sexual orientation. I reject tyrannical groupthink. I reject a system which allows an ambitious, misinformed, and dogmatic mob to suppress free speech, create false narratives, and apathetically steamroll over the truth. I reject the acceptance of junk science and superstition to advance ideological agendas. I reject hate. These are the reasons why I became a liberal. And these are the same reasons why I am now walking away. For years now, I have watched as the left has devolved into intolerant, inflexible, illogical, hateful, misguided, ill-informed, un-American, hypocritical, menacing, callous, ignorant, narrow-minded, and at times characteristics and claim embrace the principles of universally hating and blaming all of society's problems on all people who have white skin. I have witnessed the irony of advocacy for gender equality morph into blatant hatred and intolerance of men and masculinity. I have seen the once earnest fight for equality for the LGBT community mutate into an illogical demonization of heteronormativity to vilify and attack our conventional concepts of gender. These same self-proclaimed victims of intolerance now turning on the gay community that they attached themselves to advance their agenda, now calling gay people privileged and themselves victims of injustice. I have watched as the left has allowed themselves to become hypnotized by false narratives and conclusions perpetuated by social justice warriors who misrepresent and misconstrue facts, evidence, and events to confirm their own biases that everyone who does not comply with their prejudicial conclusions and follow their orders is a racist, a bigot, a Nazi, a white supremacist, homophobic, Islamophobic, xenophobic, misogynistic, and alt-right extremist. And I have watched as they've used these heartless and carelessly assigned labels to intimidate, threaten, bully, silence, attack, unemploy, blacklist, and destroy anybody who dares to fight back. They'll come for me, and then they'll come for you. And worst of all, the Democratic Party and the liberal media has embraced, affirmed, aided, and abetted this cult ideology. In an effort to gain voters and maintain power, the Democratic Party that I once loved has joined forces with the extremist left. The Democratic Party and the liberal media now believe their own ill-gotten conclusions and have ominously decided that they, and only they, know the remedy for society's ills. The left has decided that the problems with race relations in America is more racism. The left believes that attacking, insulting, and dehumanizing one group of people elevates another. The left now believes that there are no boundaries when telling lies, omitting the truth, or misrepresenting facts when telling the news, because their end justifies their means. The left has now decided that its point of view is the only acceptable one, and that suppressing, censoring, and banning open dialogue and debate is virtuous and progressive. The Democratic Party has adopted a deleterious belief system happily and without skepticism, separating people into groups based off of identity, and then organizing them into camps of victims and oppressors. If you are a person of color, an LGBT person, a woman, or an American immigrant, the Democratic Party wants you to know that you are a victim and destined to stay that way. They will insist that you are a victim doomed to exist within a system that is rigged against you, that you are a victim of systemic oppression, that you are a victim of your circumstances. No amount of hard work or motivational action will ever allow you to overcome your victimhood or the privilege of those around you. This is perhaps the Democratic Party's greatest and most insidious lie. But if you are a minority in America today, the left-wing politicians and the liberal media don't want you to ever discover this lie. So they bombard us with stories designed to reinforce the narrative that you are in danger, that you cannot succeed. They manipulate your fears and concerns by telling you that you are disadvantaged, disempowered, and disposable to everyone except them. They will tell you that you need them. They will tell you that you are only safe under their supervision. They will promise to liberate you from all that chains you. And then they will do absolutely nothing for you. Once upon a time, I was a liberal, but liberalism has changed, and I will no longer be a part of an ideology or political party that represents everything that contradicts my values of unity, equal opportunity, personal empowerment, compassion, and love. So I am walking away, and I encourage all of you to do the same. Walk away.
Well, so there you go. That is what started this entire walk away movement. That's what started all of it. So Kelly, had you seen any of this?
Yeah, it was some time ago, but I haven't seen this. Did not see this video at all. But I've known about it, but I've not heard a whole lot about it, but I've known some about it. Hey, so this is actually new to me.
So yeah, this has been blowing up recently all over Twitter, like all over. So I see that Maya is in the chat. We haven't seen her in a little while. Thanks for coming, Maya. We really appreciate you being here. I hope everything's okay with you. Been praying for you. So all the videos that we're going to look at today, everything we're going to talk about, the links are in the chat. And I'll go ahead and give my full disclaimer, copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. So that's that walkaway movement. So now I actually have my own walkaway. It was several years ago, but I actually was center left. I was never really I guess, would that be liberal? Would that be more classical liberal? There's things even that I even still today kind of support. I do believe there needs to be some social net. Right. But I also know that the best social program is a job. Right. But when the left really started ramping up their social justice, and I was like, whoa. So I've said before that, like, well, I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me. It's a famous Reagan quote, but which is true. The left, the Democratic Party, they just went just like that, just to the far left. And left me like, whoa, what is this? This makes no sense to me. And then and now I wasn't really very politically active, you know what I mean? Like, or even politically informed. And so it made me like rethink if this is what the Democratic Party has become. And I know that these are just crazy, right? The Democratic Party that I thought fought against racism has become racist against me. That made me rethink and actually start looking into their policies. And come to find out, I realized that I really am conservative. And so I wouldn't consider myself, a far-right conservative. I'm not a far-right conservative. I'm not a, center-right, but I'm a little moderate. So, I do believe in, the sanctity of marriage and traditional marriage and all that, but I also see that a secular gay marriage, right? I'm talking in front of a justice of the peace. To me, in my opinion, and my viewers may not agree with me, but in my opinion, a secular gay marriage in front of a justice of the peace does not in any way affect traditional Christian marriage, right? As I see it, a legitimate marriage between a man and a woman is, a covenant between the husband and wife and God, right? Well, and that is absent from a secular marriage. So, essentially, a same-sex marriage at a justice of the peace is they're just getting a tax break here, right? And exactly. And so, I supported gay marriage, that type of gay marriage, long before the Democratic Party actually did. We're talking back when I was in high school in the 90s. I was like, well, it just makes sense to me, right? Like, it doesn't hurt me. You know what I mean? So, I'm not whether I support the gay lifestyle or not, that in and of itself, just looking at it from a position of freedom and liberty, right, and people being allowed to be who they are, right, or who they choose to be. I mean, I can condemn or condone a particular lifestyle either way. Ultimately, though, we all have the freedom and liberty in this country to live our lives as we see fit, right? And so, I mean, and that is something that has been consistent. That is one thing that has been consistent in my life since I was a teenager. Abominable Snowman says center left is now, or is the new far right. Yeah, I mean, now anything that is right of Marx is, you know, fascist to them. It's crazy. B Lady says to me, do you think that now all the millennials are coming out with all the fluff they are brainwashed with in schools from liberals? Folks are seeing who they are clearly. Yes. So there is this, as I'm talking about with this walkaway movement. I mean, if you go on Twitter, it just, I mean, this is just trending. It's like, I don't know, I haven't seen if it's like #1 trending, but it's like, it's up there, right? And so there's all these stories of minorities and, you know, gay men and lesbians and, you know, I mean, from every demographic you can think of, you know, and they're given a little short story and hashtag walk away. And I even did my own, like just several years ago, during the Obama administration. I think it was 2012, somewhere around there. When I walked away, that was when I started seeing like this craziness. Another thing too was the left's embrace of Islam, which was, I was like, I mean, I had been spending years studying it. I'm like, there's no way. They're either really stupid or this is insidious. Like there's no way they could actually believe this. So that was my walk away moment.
Well, I wanted to tell you something. My son just about did a walk away here in the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
Because he is as you know, you've seen how he acts, you've heard him, you know, intermediately as me being a mediator in between talking. Right. He's very patriotic, and he's a constitutionalist. He believes in his Constitution and his rights that the Constitution gives. And he walked into church. He had his outfit on that he absolutely loved, and he's got his patches that has his firefighter, you know, red stripe on the flag with the battle axe and everything, and our Pennsylvania flag. And he's, you know, said he's standing, you know, on our ground and he's going to protect our ground.
Right.
Well, he went in not thinking anything of it. And I have seen, I don't know how many people walk into our church this way. But somebody came up to us of authority and came up to him, kind of shocked him, because as many times as he's been in church, somebody came up and said something to a higher person in the church, because he had his hunting knife on him in the sheath, and said that a little kid was scared, but we found out later, it was actually an adult. I was upset that he had a knife on him in church.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, my pastor didn't even know it. He didn't know nothing about it. And he came up and said, you know, good kid and all that stuff. But my son came home all day yesterday, ran. And then, of course, we had an issue with the pig, so that didn't help either. And then one thing and another, but my pastor shows up and sits there and he said, you know, I know that you'd be one of the ones to sacrifice yourself to protect anybody that was in there. He said, I can't believe that somebody came up and had a fit about this. And he said, that's because they're not being educated. And our pastor that actually started the church, not the pastor that I'm speaking of, that actually speaks at our church most of the time, actually spoke to us along with his wife, who is a pastor also, and literally said, I cannot believe that they confronted him about that, because their son carries a pig sticker, which that's what he calls it, a pig sticker, on him at all times. And I even told the pastor that was in our driveway, he's got it on him all the time. I said, if they really knew how many people packed in that church, they'd probably freak out, whoever had said that. So, I mean, my son literally said, I'm about ready to walk away. And he's like, and the pastor came in and he said, no, don't do that. He came to the driveway and he said, don't do that. He said, because you're part of our security, somebody that knows what they're doing. And it was just an amazing thing of how ignorant our society has become.
Right. Well, I mean, there's a time and a place for things, and I mean, I fully support there being designated people in churches to be armed, right? I do support that. I will say that, I mean, of course, I don't know these people, right, that you're talking about. Like, I don't know this pastor or the other people.
I mean, we live in a rural area and we're hunters.
Right.
Everybody knows that we're hunters, but I couldn't believe that somebody had actually came up and said that. And our head pastor and his wife couldn't believe it.
Well, what I'm saying though is that I mean, a pastor, you know, the church, you know, some churches have, you know, their church elders, whatever, and they, you know, they employ the pastor, but the rules for the church are actually made by, you know, the elders in the church. It just depends on what church you're talking about, but they have the right to make whatever rules they want for their church, you know, and to be you know, a member of the church or parishioner or whatever you want to call it, you know, you have to follow those rules. So, I mean, like, but again,
though, that there's never been a rule up like that, and it just was something that was brought up.
Yeah, if there's no rule, if there's actually no rule about it, then it's, you know, I don't know. I mean, if the pastor's on his side, then there's really no reason to really get up in arms over it. I mean, we had talked about this yesterday.
The lower pastor, the one that was underneath our elder, had his wife had actually came up to him. That's what upset him.
Right. Well, I mean, some things are worth getting mad about, and some things, you know, you just kind of, okay, well, that's not cool, or that's not fair. It'll work itself out, or it's not worth getting mad over. And I mean, if the church is on his side, the pastor, meaning the pastor, you know, and it's just someone who had a complaint about it, I wouldn't even, I'd be like, yeah, well, that person is a little too sensitive, and just, you know, drive on, go to the next day, go to the next thing, go dig some fence posts, or go shooting, or go fishing.
That's what he did.
Yeah, it's not, there's no reason to really get all that upset over it. If that, you know, if that in fact is the case, I wouldn't worry about it, but I can definitely see why he might be upset. B Lady says that churches are soft targets. They are. That's why I fully support there being designated people in churches that are armed, you know, with concealed carry permits. You know, in case someone was to come in and shoot up the church. I mean, that has happened.
It's happened. And matter of fact, we actually have a sheriff, and there's about, as of right now that we know of, there's 9 people that actually carry, and they know that Eric and I carried, and you know, Stephen respectfully kept his in the vehicle.
Right.
Because he doesn't have a concealed carry. So he kept that in there, but he never even thought about his knife. Right. But then he has a little pocket unit that, you know, holds a multi-tool. Right. And she made a comment about that. Well, you have that put away, but she didn't even know that he had an extra mag in there for his dad's gun in case he needed it.
Yeah, I carry a multi-tool on my belt. It's a Gerber. It's kind of like a Leatherman, you know. It was a military issue, Army issue. So we were getting deployed for the third time. Actually ended up not going on that deployment, but you know, we were drawing supply for that deployment, new gear. And you know, we basically had, you know, one of our had a bag, or duffel bag, and you just walk down from table to table to table, and there'd be a private there that just, you know, throw it in your bag, whatever it was on that bag. I mean, the whole, you know, squadron, you know, every, you know, I mean, we're talking like, I don't know, 400 or 500 soldiers, right? Kind of have to come through at one time. And so, you know, you're not even really stopping at the tables. You're just walking through, and privates are throwing them in your bag. And for some reason, I got 2 of them. And so when I got out and cleared supply, I only had to turn in 1, right? So when you at the last station, you have to sign for the gear that you just drew, right? But they're not going through, like, you're not laying it out. You just get there, and there's a paper with your name and social on it, and you sign it. So yeah, when I got out and cleared supply, I only had to turn 1 in, so I still have 1. And it even has the ACU case for it and everything. It's made to fit on, you know, your Molly gear, all that stuff. It's pretty cool.
Oh.
It's pretty cool. So there's that. All right, let's move on. The Mexican election. So,
oh my.
So I briefly talked. So the Mexican election happened yesterday, and the front runner did in fact win. I did a live stream the other day. I think it was last week, where I talked about how he supports and said that he was going to pardon the cartels and calling for mass migration into the United States. So he, you know, making a statement to the effect of that it's a human right to come into the United States. Despite the fact Mexico's immigration laws, if you illegally immigrate into Mexico, like you illegally cross their border, you're looking at 2 to 10 years in prison.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's, you know, and they've got a wall on their southern border. But see, this is what it really is about for them, right? So you go all the way back to the Mexican-American War. It was 1848, I believe. And so Mexico had provoked a war. They wanted Texas back, is what it was about. They wanted Texas back, and they provoked a war. Well, of course, we went to war, and we made it all the way down and occupied Mexico City. And the terms of the surrender of Mexico resulted in the southwestern United States becoming first U.S. territory, and then later, of course, U.S. states. I believe Arizona became a state in 1916, I believe, when it finally gained statehood. And so that has been a very sore topic for the Mexican people ever since, right? They see it as stolen land. You hear it said, you know, we didn't cross the border crossed us. You know what I mean? So there's this, it's kind of like the Mexican Ku Klux Klan, right? It's called La Raza, which means the race, right?
Right. Yeah.
And look, there are American citizens of Mexican descent who are members of various La Raza groups, right? For instance, that one judge that was presiding over a lawsuit against Trump University, before becoming a judge, was a member of like this La Raza legal group or whatever, right? La Raza, their plan is to take back the lost territory that was once Mexico, and then take northern Mexico and create their own like super ethnic state, right? Basically, and it's an ethno state called Razlan or something like that. I can't remember exactly how they pronounce it. And so these are racial supremacists, right? These are racists. I mean,
hey, Chris, I'll be back in just a moment. Keep talking. Just give me a minute, okay?
And so that is where all of this sentiment is. This is why simultaneously the now newly president-elect of Mexico can support their own immigration policies, which are very racist when you actually look at them, but also claim that it's a human right to come to the United States, right? So B Lady says, racist against which groups? Everyone who's not Mexican. It's a nationalist racist group. That was B Lady that asked that. I apologize if you hear my dogs. Well, one of my dogs. Bella is sleeping in Madison's spot, but Madison is like half the size of Bella. And so the only way, Madison, be quiet. The only way Madison can try to get that spot back, is if she barks and whines long enough that Bella just gives up and moves. So B Lady says, so the president wants to send all the folks who have immigrated there to US. Basically the president-elect of Mexico has called for, this is basically calling for an invasion. He's calling for, just en masse, hundreds of thousands to cross the border into the United States. And so I'm going to play a video here. Welcome back, Kelly. I'm going to play a video. Mexico embraces pedophiles and revolution. This is from Real News with David Knight, it's actually published today. Go to his channel and subscribe. Again, I do not own this content. This is just for educational purposes.
Before we get into the Mexican election, I just will give you a follow-up. As they talk about on Variety, they call it an erotic thriller film. That's that, and talked about the scene explicitly if you want supervision of the parent. Well, it's not okay if the parents, if the kid wants to do a porno scene for his movie, that's okay.
This was something I actually wanted to talk about. Netflix streamed basically child pornography. They're trying to say that it doesn't contain child pornography, but it does. Yeah.
Written, but if the kid wants to do a porno scene, just simulated or animated or whatever. Rape underage girl. I don't care.
Trying to get to the story.
So that kind of. And if you want to know where all this stuff is coming from, just consider the fact that Mexico has reduced the legal age of sexual consent to 12. 12-year-old girl. So that kind of clear.
Discussed this in the stream that I did. This was, one of my, balcony streams where it's just me in front of the camera, talking. I had talked about how Mexico's age of consent is 12 years old. You can be 40, 50, 60-year-old man and have sex with a 12-year-old girl in Mexico. That's disgusting.
Things up for many of the pedophiles there. Maybe they can make some more movies about this kind of stuff, right? And it's not just there. This really have to go to jail. They can own it. Sure, he's an immigration attorney, but he doesn't care about that. He says, some even argue that a law on the age of consent has become superfluous and should no longer exist. Guy Thomas Black from the University of Michigan said, just think about how 2,000 years ago, the Greeks were as much more open society. They must remember that love between a man and a boy was not taboo like it is today. This is the collapse of society. So in light of all that, in light of what's going on in Mexico, they said they've got a revolution. As I said earlier in the program, a guy who a 70-year-old farmer says, I think it's time for a change. I don't really know what's going to happen. He said, it's time to go with Obrador and see what happens. Let's just roll the dice. They're fed up with the corruption. They're fed up with the system. This is the zeitgeist behind the fourth turn. And it is the tipping point that we are all experiencing in all of these different cultures. That's why things are coming to a head. And quite frankly, that's why so many people believe that we're going to have a civil war. Because a lot of people are just looking for a revolution. That's what he promised everybody. That's what this farmer wanted. It's time for a change. Let's see what happens. He says, it'll be my first time voting for a different party. Because the party that's been in power has been in power for 77 of the last 90 years. It's become very corrupt. So they're going to just throw out everything. Now, he denies that he's going to be another Hugo Chavez. Of course, he would say that. He says, we are not inspired by any foreign governments, neither Maduro nor the current Venezuelan president nor Trump. Well, why would he have to distance himself from Maduro? Well, it's because his politics. He could say that. Just like this millennial that beat the number 4 Democrat, Crowley, Cortez says, well, yeah, Democrat socialist, I am just for giving people free stuff. Don't call me a socialist. I don't want that label. Label is not helpful. So they have to come up with things like progressive. They said his election has alarmed many investors and business leaders who worry that he will roll back privatization of energy industry and push the country into debt by spending more on social programs. Why would they think that? Well, because he's promised to double the pensions.
So I'll go ahead. That's all we're going to play of this one here. It just kind of gives you a play here. This guy, this new president elect is... he's a full-on so man, I'll tell you what. B Lady says Netflix just hired the Obamas. How can it not be child sex? Exactly. Sophia's passion for cooking came in. Hey, Sophia, I subscribe to your channel, Sophia's passion for cooking. I am glad you are here. Oh my goodness. You need to go to her channel, Sophia's Passion for Cooking. You need to go to her channel. Anybody here watching? I know I got a lot of ladies here. Go to Sophia's Passion for Cooking and check out her videos and subscribe. She's got some amazing stuff. Check it out. Thank you so much for coming, Sophia.
I'm going to hit her up.
You should. She's got some amazing recipes. I mean, I haven't really, I haven't tried to make any of them. I do live alone, so if I want to eat, I have to cook, right? So, but one of these days, Sophia, one of these days. But anyway, in regards to the new president-elect, I mean, he's an avowed socialist. His policies, I mean, scary. I mean, you know, we've done streams, Kelly, you and I, we've done streams where we talked about what's going on with, you know, the child trafficking and sex trafficking in this country. We do have some more planned streams where we're going to talk about that here in the future. And him pardoning the cartels is going to make this worse, right? Him calling for...
Really, really I mean, because there's so many areas right now that's not covered, and there's just not enough people, you know, and we don't have enough military down there.
Right. Maya makes an amazing statement here. Maya is one of my moderators and a friend, and she says, I don't claim any race. What's the point of the division? We all came from the Garden of Eve, and walked off the ark. Yeah, I mean, we're all, you know, equal in Christ, right? We're all equal in Christ.
That's right.
I don't see that anyone is superior or inferior just based on the amount of melanin they have in their skin.
That's exactly what my son said. My son said we all bleed the same color of blood.
You know, it's interesting that he says that because, you know, I mean, I've said this before, and people who are subscribers and viewers of mine know this, but people who haven't been here before may not have seen this. But, you know, I was in the military, and, you know, I did 2 deployments after 9/11, and I served beside some of the greatest men I have ever known, and I likely will never meet anyone that is just an amazing human beings, men who were greater than brothers to me, of all races, religions, creeds. I mean, great people. And, you know, so, and I'm not saying that everybody in the military is this way, but at least when I was in, right, it was commonly said that, you know, you're not white or black or, you know, red or yellow, you're green, right? Meaning your uniform, right? We all wear the same gosh darn uniform, and it all says, you know, U.S. Army, right? We're all the same. And, you know, racism was not tolerated in any unit I was ever in, not basic training, not in any other training school, not in any actual unit. Nowhere was racism ever permitted. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist in the military, because it does. It's not something that is supported by the military. It's not institutional. B Lady says the military has a code among brothers, right? I mean, yeah. So here's the thing. A lot of people will say, you know, talking about like the Iraq war, right? Like they'll talk to soldiers and be like, you know, well, we shouldn't have been in the Iraq war, and they'll you know, they'll say, you know, well, your brothers died for nothing. No, look, when you're a soldier and you go to war, it doesn't really matter why you're there, because you don't have a choice to go, right? You sign on the dotted line. You wrote a blank check to the United States government. I will go anywhere you tell me to go. I will do anything you tell me to do. I will sacrifice everything up to and including my life, right? You fight for the brother. You fight for the brothers to your left and to your right, right? Everyone's life depends on those around you, right? So yeah, I mean, there is this you know, brotherhood that forms. It's a stronger bond than a sibling bond. So, I mean, we're talking about people that you actually are in life and death situations with, right? When you're deployed, it just creates this bond. It's just, I mean, you end up knowing.
It's an unbreakable bond.
Yeah, and
in a sense,
you end up knowing each other in ways that even your spouse wouldn't, right?
Right. I've heard many military men say that. Even my father-in-law said that before he passed. I mean, he talked about it for years, you know, that they had this code between them, but no matter what, they were bros, that they were there for each other no matter what. So,
I mean, there's no room for racism, right? I mean, Sure, you know, if you're white or you're black or you're Latino or Hispanic, whatever you want to call, you know, Asian, whatever your ancestry is, you should be proud of where you came from, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we are all equal in Christ. We're all the same. When we fight beside each other, and our sacrifice is no greater or no less, you know, no matter what your race or sex is or national origin, you put on the U.S. Army uniform or the USMC uniform, whatever, you serve in the United States military and you fight for this country, your sacrifice is whatever sacrifices you make, you know, and the sacrifices of your brothers, they're all an equal sacrifice. We all bleed the same. That is for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna bring this to more of a little comical thing. So over the weekend,
B-Lady had a comment up there for you. I didn't know if you've seen that or not, in all caps.
In all caps. So how are we going to identify sides if there's a civil war, and how many sides will there be? Okay, we'll discuss this. So this is how I see it, right? And you can, I mean, this is all created by the left. So you have one side, which is basically, the way I see it, Americans, right? You're patriotic Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean just conservatives. These are conservatives, libertarians, people who are patriotic to their country and believe in the principles of freedom, liberty, and justice. And then what you're going to see on the other end, and these groups will be in various degrees together, some only loosely so. There are an estimate, a real world estimate of at least 30 million illegal immigrants in this country. And probably a third of them are, you know, combat capable, right? So you've got that, right? You've got those. These also include like your MS-13 gangs and your, you know, things of that nature, right? Whose loyalties do not reside within the United States, but to, you know, Mexico or Guatemala or El Salvador, right? They're not here because they want to be in America. But you also have various leftist groups, including Antifa or Pantifa, as people are starting to call them, which is hilarious. And so you've got all these different leftist groups. Here's the thing, though. 97% of all gun owners are conservatives or libertarians, right? On the side of freedom, liberty, and justice, right? Free market capitalism, you know, support our constitutional republic and our Constitution and Bill of Rights. Americans, right, are 97% of all gun owners. There is that. If you just look at that alone, even though it should be a rather you would think it'd be a rather quick war, it actually won't, because this isn't like our Civil War, you know, against slavery. It's not, there isn't a Mason-Dixon line, right? It's not entire states united, you know, together. That's not what it's going to be. It is going to be even more so a brother versus brother. It's going to be bloody. There will be a tremendous amount of bloodshed. I believe that if there is that type of civil war, we will see millions die. Millions.
You know, it's kind of ironic, the way you said that and how it's come about, because when we met up with our senior pastor at Walmart, he had sat there and he made a comment about Pennsylvania, because that's where we're from. Mm-hmm. And he said the first day of hunting season, he said, there are more guns, more hunters out there that would make a military group. And he goes, and he goes into Russia and he ministers in Russia.
Yeah.
I say Russia because of where he's at. He's all over in that area when he goes over. And he made a comment that he said that in Pennsylvania, it is the fourth largest, out of all the studies that they've done, the fourth largest number of armed citizens that would make a military in the world the first day of hunting season.
Well, here's something that'll even it's even more mind-boggling than that. It's an amazing figure. There are more armed Americans in the United States than all professional soldiers in the world combined.
Yeah, I heard that too.
That's crazy. And
that not only that, but each of those people have, they say, on average, at least 3 guns, but some of them even have, of course, if they're gun fanatics, have a heck of a lot more than that.
Yeah. And they're I mean, the left is pushing for they've gone way far when it comes to gun legislation. I mean, there's many of them, and we're talking politicians that are supporting a full gun ban, repeal of the Second Amendment, right? So,
right.
And then at the same time, there's all this violence, calls for violence and actual violence. So, anyway, I meant to find it. Here we go. So before I get to this, let me pull it up though. I know you guys can see it, but why are you so angry? Why are you so angry? So let's before we get to that, let me come over here, right? So this is a video. Actually, not going to play the video because this has to do with the comments. It's a comment section that I was involved in. So this is the new Democratic Party. Dana Lash reacts to 28-year-old socialist winning the Democratic primary, right? And so I made a comment. We are headed towards civil war if something doesn't change. The UN will side with the left, though the vast majority of gun owners, 97%, are on the right. There are more armed Americans than all soldiers in the world. I just got done saying that. That's why they want to disarm us. If the left is this violent while we are still armed, imagine what they would say and do if they disarmed us. Instead, we need a return to civility, battle ideas, not people. Then I get a response. Chris Holman, yep, they are the new Stalin, Pol Pot, right? Then an Angela Clark Westoven says, the right need their guns because they are a bunch of punks and can't fight without them. Then my response, now this, I probably should have worded this a little differently. I was mocking this person because her statement is so far from reality. Are you kidding me? Have you looked at the soy boy beta cucks on the left? We don't need guns to kick their ass. This isn't about fighting. This is about defending our country, our freedom, and our lives from the left that wants to destroy all of it. You don't fight a war with your fists. If a civil war comes, the streets will run red with the blood of the communist left. You can bet on it. And it will. It absolutely will. And so that brings me back to this. Now, I'm gonna mute it because there's no need in it. The sound is immaterial. So on Saturday, there was this big, this is in Portland, there was this big prayer rally, right? This huge big prayer rally. And Antifa shows up. And now you're not going to see this, the very beginning part of it, but Antifa provoked it, right? They throwing rocks and bottles and then smoke bombs. And then they just got swarmed. Right. And this is one example of what happened throughout the entire exchange. Antifa got rocked. And so now watch this. So you see a guy right there with the pipe, right? You see the guy with the white sleeves. One hit with a pipe, second hit with a pipe, boom. Let's watch this back. Watch this. One guy's armed with a pipe. The other guy's armed with nothing. Now look at this. Now watch. Hit one, twice, one punch, falls over, knocked out. Like, and you'll see him. He'll get dragged off. And you know they're talking. What she says that we need our guns because we're punks and don't know how to fight. Are you not paying attention? Any time that the numbers have been equal and people aren't getting ganged up on, Antifa they just get demolished. Now, here's the thing. These guys are not far right, right? These guys are just patriots. They were there for a prayer rally. And they had a permit to be there, right? And then Antifa shows up and provokes an attack. And then, you know what? They got what was coming to them. You know, you don't want, you don't want to get knocked out and you don't want to lose your teeth. Maybe you shouldn't go around starting fights. That's all I'm saying. So now, of course, this guy knocking out that Antifa guy is not me. That's somebody else, right? So I'm not saying that I would necessarily fare so well against a guy armed with a pipe. And me being unarmed, I don't know. I wasn't there and I haven't been in a situation with a guy armed with a pipe. But I will say this. All in all, men on the political right, we're talking about good old boys. These are patriots. These are veterans. These are law enforcement guys. These are not your soy boys, right? That's what Antifa is. They are soy boys. These guys, they're, and to be honest, there's something wrong with them, right? The media tries to portray the right as being violent, but when you look, whenever the left has a protest, when has the right ever showed up? When has anyone on the political right ever showed up and started violence? Name one instance. I can't think of one.
Exactly.
But every time.
Not one. No. There was one time that we stood up after they came after us.
So, I mean,
we never started it.
There has been counter protests. I mean, you go back to the Obama administration, you know, there was Occupy Democrats and then there was, or Occupy Wall Street, and then your Tea Party guys, right? And your Occupy Democrats. Like, so, but there would be counter protests, sure, from the right, but they weren't ever violent. There was never violence from the right because it has been proven by clinical psychologists and research that those on the political left are much more likely to be mentally unstable, right? Much more likely to be mentally ill, much more likely to be violent. And you see it play out right here. There's something wrong with these people. For one, I do kind of pity them because they've been brainwashed by our education, not just in college. It's in high school. It's in middle school. It's in grade school, right? And, you know, they haven't been taught what actual communism really does, right? Socialism and communism has failed every single time it's been implemented, and every single time it's led to totalitarian, authoritarian regimes with the mass oppression of people and mass death. Like 100+ million people died in the 20th century because of communism, right? If you point, and these people are so brainwashed that even when you point out facts, they won't believe it, right? You could show them pictures of gulags. They won't believe it. In fact, they likely would not come to their senses until they themselves are thrown into a gulag, some type of prison. So,
I agree. I mean, because they sit there and, you know, they act big and tough and everything, but they run away. I mean, it's crazy how brainwashed they are.
Maya made a comment, and I just saw this, and I want to go ahead and I think it's a good idea to plug. She says, I'm listening to a book on Audible called Ava's Crucible, Divided We Fall by Mark Goodwin. It's about the coming Civil War in America. It's a good book.
It is. I've listened to it.
I don't actually have Audible, but that does sound like a book I would be interested in reading.
When you first sign up, you can get, I think, up to 3 books free. Mm-hmm. That might be a book you might want to listen to because it is really good.
Yeah, unless it's ammo. Like, I like spending my money on food and ammo. Pretty much. I don't know.
Yeah, but they give you a free trial.
And she also mentions The Days of Noah. That was a good series too. Me more serious about prepping. Yeah. You know, so I haven't really done any videos on prepping. I haven't really talked about it, but I will say this. In the military, you train and prepare for the worst case scenarios, right? So anybody who watching this who may be a prepper, just listen to this one little bit of advice. Prep for the worst case scenario and every contingency under that, right? If you prepare and train and prep for the worst case scenarios, anything less than that is a piece of cake. You've got it. Mm-hmm. You've got it. So if you're gonna prep, if you are a prepper, if you're not already doing this, consider, like, if you've got, let's say you've got a bug out plan, right? You got a bug out location picked, whatever. Plan for the worst case scenarios, right? Well, worst case scenario 1, you got to walk, right? Well, you need to have multiple routes to get there because 1 route might be compromised. 2 routes might be compromised. 3 out of 6 routes may be compromised. You know, maybe you start out at a driving route to get as close as you can, just in case, you know, there's, you know, road closures or roadblocks or whatever. You prepare for, you know, let's say it maybe your bug out location is, you know, a 72-hour walk, right? Or, you know, 3 days to get there, including rest, right? So, but you should have food to last you longer than just those 3 days in case you have to hole up somewhere, you know, in case it takes you. You might have caches set up along the way. And, you know,
always should have a foraging book with you. And, you know, so that at least you can look at food that might be out there.
Right. Right. And yeah, learn that kind of stuff, you know, foraging, what kind of berries you can eat, roots, things like that. And, you know, hey, once a month, take a weekend, go to your bug out location once a month, get used to it. Make sure you're in shape. If you need, you know, if it's, say 35 miles away from your home, you need to be able to walk, 10 to 12 miles a day, with, I don't know, 45, 50 pounds on your back, right? Plus whatever else you may take with you. You need to be able to physically do that. So that's all I'm going to say about prepping. I'm not really going to get into prepping stuff. There are a lot of good YouTube channels out there on prepping. If someone watching this wants to get into prepping, which I think you should, honestly, the writing is on the walls. I will also say that if you're in a position to bug in, it's better to bug out. Better to do that than bug out. If you're in a rural situation, you have a homestead, you bug in. That is your bugging out is worst case scenario. Everything is gone. It's your homestead.
Totally south.
Yeah, your homestead is compromised. You've got to move. You've got to get on. It's that worst case scenario there. So that's pretty much it on that. So anyway, I'll see. We've been talking for about an hour now, a little over an hour. I've got one more video to play, and then we're going to have a discussion on this. La Resistance. Hey, La Resistance is here. Ava's Crucible audiobook is on YouTube for free. That's amazing. Well, then I don't have to pay for it. La Resistance, my little absolutely fabulous friend here. Maya says, Canadian Prepper is a great channel for prepping tips. Yes, good stuff. I'm curious how many of my viewers are preppers. I actually am curious.
Well, you already know one here.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not like some crazy prepper, though recently Michelle and I were having a funny thought experiment about building a castle, you know, out somewhere as a bug out location made from Roman concrete with a moat. It was fun and funny, hilarious. That was a funny conversation. That was a fun conversation. So, yeah, I'm kind of a prepper, but I'm not all, like, I don't have a bunker out somewhere like that. All right. So this is Q, the plan to save the world. Now, this is an amazing video. And I have not seen, I've seen this video several times, and there's not one thing in there that I've seen that I honestly can say that I disagree with. Now, this video has been, it's on many, many other channels. Sergeant Report, in fact, right here, you can see Q, the plan to save the world. That video's on there, is uploaded there as well. This was uploaded June 25th. It's already got over 500,000 views. Go to, this channel is Joe M. Check out his channel and subscribe. Again, I do not own this content. I do not have a copyright on it. Also go to Sergeant Report or SGT Report right here. Check out his, he's got some good content, and subscribe. All right, here we go. We're going to watch this.
Have you ever wondered why we go to war?
I have to say that the quality of this video is really good. You're going to be really impressed.
Or why you never seem to be able to get out of debt? Why there is poverty, division, and crime? What if I told you there was a reason for it all? What if I told you it was done on purpose? What if I told you that those who were corrupting the world, poisoning our food, and igniting conflict were themselves about to be permanently eradicated from the earth? You might think that an idealistic fantasy. Well, let me tell you a story. We acknowledge there are criminals, of course. Your house, they steal your phone. They can murder you too if they think they can get away with it. We have all experienced criminals in one way or another. Criminals, as we know, are those who choose personal gain over the rights of others and have no regard for the law. But here is where you need to expand your thinking. Criminals can also succeed in business and politics and can be elected as our leaders. If a criminal became the president with other criminal presidents and then collaborate on more global criminal activities, anything goes. Drug running, human trafficking, when it's the big bucks. The 20th century was turbulent with war, economic disaster, and replacement. We have always accepted these things as just human nature, and simply the way the world works. Something inevitable, and due to the weaknesses of human nature that drive us to these actions. This is where we were all tragically wrong. You are a criminal. I'm not a criminal. So how can it is human nature that is driving all this pain and misery? What if it wasn't human nature at all, and as a result of something more deliberate? We were taught that capitalism was the cause of a massive rich-poor divide and the reason for poverty, which in turn is the reason for war, crime, and starvation. Others were taught that communism, the system of equal wealth across all, was really to blame for the mess. But you see, folks, it is none of these things. It is not our to fight and be racist. It is not in our nature to rob from others. What you must learn is that it was the criminals all along. Yes, they got power. Yes, they got power. More power than a criminal should ever have. They rose up with media companies that control our news and entertainment. They sent it to the top of the banking system, also to the Oval Office, to Brussels, to the Vatican, to the Crown. They crept in quietly. They became leaders of agricultural companies who have control over our foods. Also big pharmaceutical companies, the ones we trust to help us when we're sick. Nobody stopped them, and they just recruited more criminals to help them. First, they accumulated the world's wealth. They invented a system of money called central banking to governments with interest, placing countries into eternal debt. People's wealth got countries into eternal debt. People's wealth got less. Their wealth got more. Much more. When a criminal is already as rich as they can get, then protecting their ill-gotten gains becomes the priority. Angry citizens tired of the criminals needed to prevent this. So they diverted attention to the last remaining competitor, the people of the world. They used their control of the media to attack all aspects of humanity. I could talk all day about how else they deliberately weakened us, and it would turn your stomach. We wanted to fight them. Sadly, he had no idea how powerful they had become. Reagan also had good intentions for the American people. He knew this criminal mafia controlled almost everything by the stage, including the powerful rogue intelligence agencies. His economic plot, were we ever to be freed? These criminals are also known as the Deep State, or Cabal, because of how they control things behind the scenes. Every president after Reagan was one of these Deep State criminals, and their empire got even stronger. With each bad president came new depths America and the world would sink. The world collapsed into darkness. Do you need me to tell you how? Destroyed factories, declining job numbers, sicker people, opioids, destruction of Iraq, Syria, and Yemen with pointless war, displacement of people into Europe, ISIS, terrorism, collapsed governments, and genocide. Total misery. Do you think that was inevitable? Hell no. Well, here's where things start taking you to full picture comes to be known. It will forever be regarded and flooded into every home, and appliances became smarter. And when people started carrying tracking devices, an opportunity to put an end to criminal control of the world was emerging. We became connected, trackable, and surveilled. But so did they. They became dependent, just like we did, on email, SMS, instant communication. They called this the NSA, the National Security. The relevance of the NSA in the story cannot be understated. Here we had every phone call, email, and text, every device stored and archived. Whether it be someone making a doctor's appointment, or the Deep State setting up a massive heroin purchase from the Taliban. In the right hands, it would be enough information to reclaim the world from the cabal and return it to the people. It would involve alliances with multiple countries, since the criminals had global rap lines, trade, and other infrastructure in place that would need operation. It came down to two choices for America. Launch a military coup to seize the government from whichever cabal puppet was in the White House at the time, or win legitimately, take control of the NSA, expose the criminals for what they are, and arrest them all. Obviously, the first option would be very troubling for the public, with people still preoccupied with cabal-engineered social issues and their global partners, asked Trump to run for president so they could take back control of America legitimately without alarming the public. Trump was a good choice, obviously, because he overcame the vote fraud and won. But he was a patriot, and he was loved and admired by the public. He was not interested in joining the cabal, mainly because they hated America and merge, even when he had no idea what he was a part of, and the sophisticated plan that was about to unfold against them. Shocked at their loss, they mobilized their full arsenal of intelligence, media, money, and technology to try and take back power. There were people at the top of the DOJ and FBI that put together a plan to frame Trump and have him impeached. This is where we come back to today again. All messages were stored and could be used to expose this plot and prevent Trump's overthrow. An entire book will be written about the first 2 years of Trump's presidency. False flag terror attacks, downplays, missile alerts, assassination attempts. Here's the point. The world is currently experiencing a dramatic covert war of biblical proportions. Literally the fight between the forces of good and evil. I can't put it in simpler terms, but I can say it appears the good guys are winning. The cabal had complete control over North Korea. They hijacked the Kim dynasty, took them hostage, and worked to build up a new arsenal to threaten the world. Kim Jong-un suddenly embracing peace was simply because the Deep State were beaten and driven out. ISIS was also destroyed in the year following Trump's win. We are all starting to see the pattern now that enough time has passed, that our biggest global concerns are starting to program to invoke an online grassroots movement that came to be called the Great Awakening. It started on underground internet channels and then moved to the mainstream. Q has been a fun distraction for those who follow truth, but it is about to begin a much more important and necessary phase, keeping the public informed when the Deep State war breaks out onto the surface. By this, I mean high-profile arrests. Yes, folks, the The criminals I'm referring to are famous politicians, actors, singers, CEOs, and celebrities. People who have earned our trust, respect, and admiration. They have done very bad things that are all fully known and documented, and they will be severely punished. Those of us who have followed Q since the beginning will be here to help you make sense of the coming events. We are among the first to realize that our petty partisan divisions are just trivial distractions, and we are all enslaved by a hidden enemy. We realize that the problem was never capitalism or socialism, Democrat or Republican, black or white, Muslim or Christian. We know it was just very powerful criminals who had too much power. Fellow slaves, it's time to buckle your seatbelt, recognize your true enemy, and embrace a new future that we all owe to the brave patriots who risk their lives to achieve this victory against the greatest force of evil the world has ever known. Make us America.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So let's. I'm curious to go through. Let's see. Maya says, "Me a prepper? No way. Preppers are crazy." Then again, maybe I am a prepper. Robertson Stone says Tommy Robinson's appeal judge comments on his guilt pre-appeal. See YouTube # free Tommy Robinson news. Cannot post link. Okay, well we do have a Kelly. You and I have we planned on trying to get some new information about Tommy. I haven't really seen any new information. I have no idea what's going on with that. Try to assimilate or assemble as much as we can.
Yeah, send DM me in here and I'll open it up and look at it really quick and throw it up there.
So
if it's viable.
That is interesting. I need to come back here. There we go. Bring this back up. Well, so what was Kelly, from watching that, what is your take? Do you agree with what was put out there? Do you think that maybe that is all just propaganda? Do you believe it to be truth? Partial truths? What is your opinion on that, Kelly? What we just watched?
Well, I've been reading a few comments about what people are saying, and a lot of them are saying that they're being screwed. Pardon me for saying that, but that's several million of them.
B Lady said she has to go. Hold on a minute. B Lady said she had to go. She says she mods that on another channel. She'll catch the rest of the stream later. Bye, B Lady. Have a good day.
Thank you, B Lady. But I think there's two sides to every story that comes in, and I think there needs to be a little more research into that, even though it is very intense.
Mm-hmm.
Watching that.
Yeah.
I still think there's two sides, and there needs to be a little more.
Well, yeah, there are two sides.
Looking into it.
On one side, you've got the deep state, which is it's an international deep state, right? You've got these globalists. I've said before that I said this actually in multiple streams, that you get into the root of the globalists. You go back to the late 19th century with the robber barons, right? Even the Bushes.
You can go back even farther than that.
I mean, you've got the Bushes, and their connection with the Bushes. Didn't they make money off of Nazi Germany? Wasn't that the Bushes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, the old man did.
Yeah, I mean, I actually do believe that World War II, it was a great evil that we fought, and that was our greatest generation there. But I do believe that Nazi Germany was propped up by these globalists, and the people who are truly responsible for World War II were not the ones held responsible for it, right? There were bigger players at play than Adolf Hitler.
Right. They were the captains of it.
Winston Churchill and Stalin and FDR. There were bigger players at play there. And those same people or those same families at play. And one of those people is George Soros. Now, George Soros is a latecomer, and if you consider coming from, starting with World War II, I mean, he was a Nazi collaborator in World War II, and he fashions himself a type of god, and he plays. He's a narcissist. He sees himself as this, a god, and he's crashed currencies. He's caused governments to collapse. And as of 1979, he's put his sights on the United States. And I don't think he's the head of the snake, but he's part of it. There's people you could start talking about maybe the Rothschilds being part of that, and other type of families. What was that one? Is it Bilderberg?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Yep.
I mean, there's so many players and players we don't even know, right? And then of course, I do believe that
there's a lot more names. I mean, there's names of people that we would not believe would even be involved in it.
Right. And I do believe that just as what was in that video, I absolutely agree with this, that you've got players in play in both the Republican and the Democratic Party. And most visibly being John McCain on the Republican side. And of course, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, the Bushes, Bill Clinton. It's absolutely sickening what they've done to this country. Anybody who knew anything, and this would be people in the intelligence community, would have known that Saddam Hussein was not an Islamic extremist. In fact, he was at odds with Islamic extremists because the Ba'athist Party of Iraq was a secular party. It was a secular party. Was he a monster? Of course he was a monster. Hello, he was a monster. But he also, kept it stable there, right? He kept Iraq stable. In the Middle East, those countries, right, if they require to have some kind of dictatorship, some type of authoritarian power to keep the extreme elements of their population in check, so you don't get ISIS and Al-Qaeda and the Taliban and Hamas and Hezbollah. You know what I mean? Like they have to have that in place. Saddam Hussein was unnecessary evil. Removing him destabilized the Middle East and led to the death of millions. Millions. For what?
Yep. Right. I mean, when it comes right down to it, when you look at what they did to him, I mean, yeah, he wasn't good, but you know what? He was holding it together over there.
Yeah.
And that now look at what's happening. Look at where it's at now.
Right.
And how it stands.
Law Resistance says the snake has many heads. It does. It does. So
it's just rating her.
I do believe I also do believe in the plan. I do. I mean, what was put in place in that video, I absolutely do believe that that is in fact the case. You know, people talk about how Donald Trump is playing 4D chess, and he is. I think even we watched one video. Do you remember, Kelly, where it was it wasn't 4D chess? It was, they called it something else. It was where it was that weird video where he was from the Truth Factory. It was a little it was actually kind of comical, but where he was, you know, Trump the time traveler.
Yeah, they made a comedy out of it. It was kind of, you know,
right.
They were laughing in his face.
So a big part of that is that it is hard to determine what actually is Trump doing, right? I mean, with his tweets, he's exposing the vitriol of the left, right? But he's also keeping everyone guessing. He is an amazing negotiator, and it's clear what his negotiating tactics are, right? He puts out, this is what I want, which is absolutely unreasonable, right? And it now on face value, you might say, oh, he's compromising. No, that's not what he really wanted from the get-go. What he compromises down to is what he really wanted to begin with. And, you know, so he comes from a position of strength. He's the president of the United States. No one in the world has a greater position of strength than the president of the United States. So that puts him, the cards are stacked in his favor when it comes to negotiating goes. And I mean, it is frustrating to see what's going on with the Department of Justice, right? It is. But you can't expect him to immediately come into the presidency and then have and the deep state and the DOJ and the FBI just be gone in an instant. So there's this big effort to expose all of this, and it's being exposed right before our eyes. So I want you to think about I want you to think about this, that we think about as periods in history, great, amazing periods of history. Times in history where books are written, right? Movies are made, right? Plays are put to ink to paper. You talk about the great generations of the past, of the 20th century, World War I, World War II, Vietnam. You talk about the Civil War, the Revolutionary War here in the United States. You talk about, the 100 Years' War back in, well, that was around the time of the War of the Roses, I do believe. And all these great periods in history, right? Turning points in history. We are living in that today, right now. We are partaking in this together right now. And at no other point in history have we had at our disposal the means to communicate en masse and to disseminate information. The propaganda machine is no longer truly effective, but only to those who are themselves sheeple and easily led. Those like us who are free thinkers, who take the time to not just take what one person tells us, but to look at multiple sources, to expose the truth, to find out what's really going on. At our disposal is all the means we need to properly educate ourselves, to organize and unite. No other time in history has this ever happened, not in human history. The tools that we use, right? Social media, the internet and social media, which was set in place actually to help them. We turned the tables on them in the 2016 presidential election. It was turned in the UK in favor of Brexit, right? We've seen the rise of nationalist movements in Europe. The people of Europe are waking up. The tide is turning. We are winning this war.
It's a movement. I mean, seriously, it's a movement of an eye-opening of the Lord. I mean, a spiritual eye-opening.
There is that as well, yeah.
That's going on right now.
This
is going on right now, and that's why there's such, you know, a warfare between the spirit realm, between, you know, God's people and the demonic, deep dark state that wants to take over.
I believe there
and that's where we need to be strong together as one, not divided.
There is a demonic element, I do believe, to this globalist movement that we're up against. Law Resistance says, just putting it out there, but does Trump know what Trump is doing? Perhaps guided by Providence. Perhaps so. I do believe that Trump has become more conservative since taking office. I believe that he has. But even with that, he has he's kept to his promises. I mean, it's a cliche to say.
He's done everything.
It's a cliche to say, you know, politicians promise the world and never deliver. Donald Trump made promises, and he's kept those promises, and he's working to keep others. And they hate him for it. They twist his words. They Kelly, you and I, before the stream, we were talking about, I told you about a video I'd seen. I wish I had it up and we could watch it. But it explained why the media is fake news, right? Why are they fake news? Well, in journalism school, they teach this subjective truth, right? They have this, it's this deconstructionist philosophy and neo-Marxist philosophy that you have your truth and I have my truth, right? And so that opens them up to be able to report basically how they feel is truth. And so now then they can, in good conscience, violate all the ethics of journalism and just put out there whatever they want for their political, to further their political ends. It's truly diabolical. So Donald Trump has been attacked for calling the media, the mainstream media, the enemy of the people. They are. If the media is lying to us, and they do, oh my gosh, and they do. I mean, just about everything you're going to see on CNN or MSNBC or ABC or NBC, whatever, the BBC, about everything you're going to see is spun in a way that truth is absent from it. At best, it's morsels of actual truth, disguised with lies, to further political agendas. I mean, we see this time and time again. There was the Time cover, Time magazine cover, right, with the little girl, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that was nothing but a lie.
Yeah, but that girl wasn't even separated from her mother. But it didn't matter because it furthered their political agenda.
I mean, this is crazy. I mean, this mother, this child just wanted something to eat.
Yeah.
I mean, for them to sit there and cut in half that.
Donald Trump calls.
When I seen that first time, I just about blew up.
President Trump called MS-13 animals, and the media spun that as him saying all immigrants are animals. And the media disingenuously conflates, illegal aliens with legal immigrants. It's not the same thing. Donald Trump nor his supporters are against legal immigration. And it doesn't matter what race or religion or creed you are if you legally immigrate to the United States. It's those illegal aliens who break our immigration law, who violate our sovereignty to come into our country. And then we have the most broken immigration laws on top of that. And then also we have this welfare state, right? And so they break our laws coming here, and then they're rewarded with, assistance, government assistance. when you have American citizens who, you know, work their fingers to the bone, right, to provide for their families, and they pay their taxes, and their taxes are going to pay these illegal aliens who are getting more in benefits oftentimes than those Americans who are working themselves to the bone. La Resistance says the left are tripping and falling over their hatred. It is now so obvious who is left on the left, and those who choose to stay are, or so I think that's supposed to be blind and deaf, they have been given over. Legal immigrants cannot stand illegal aliens. That's true. And the voting block is always overlooked. So, I mean, the silent majority spoke on, you know, on election day, 2016. I mean, all the polls were like, now was it 98% chance Hillary was going to win? Because the vast majority of Trump supporters didn't comment. They went about their lives, and on election day, they showed up and voted. Right? The left praises the Electoral College until it works against them, and then suddenly they want to abolish it. There's a reason we have an Electoral College. We are not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic, right? We have an Electoral College because, for the sole reason that you don't have situations where New York and California decide elections. Without the Electoral College, the Republican Party could never win another presidential election. But on top of that, this illegal immigration gets even more insidious because you notice California's electoral votes has gone up, but so has their number of senators, right?
Yeah, and have you seen how they want to sit there and they want to divide it into 3 other states?
Right. Yeah. Not senators, I meant representatives, but you know what I mean, right? So because that's based on the population of the state. Well, they're counting illegal immigrants, illegal aliens in that population, which boosts the legislative power of California in Washington. The Electoral College is the world's envy.
Do you realize how much the Democrats are? They're literally falling apart, and they're seeing it because, I mean, they've got right now. Trump's got somebody that he wants in there as a judge in the justice system, and he knows right now it's going to be an uphill battle to fight to get this person in. And they got another one that's going to be retiring, and then they need to get rid of that old lady that's in there.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she's older than dirt. But they seriously, I mean, when he comes to the end of his first, and I'm saying first, presidential run, that he is going to have done so much, and people they're seeing that the Democrats sorry are they're really truly falling apart.
Right.
They just, I mean, the leftists they're like little, it's like, okay, step on an ant's nest and see what happens.
Right.
It's going to go, they're going to scatter. They're going to go all over the place. They don't know what to do. And that's exactly what the Democrats are doing.
Right.
The leftists are doing. They are scattering. They don't know. They're reaching for straws now because they couldn't take our guns away because of all of these mass shootings. You know, they couldn't bring these laws in that they wanted to bring in. I mean, and we're standing up.
We are. Devonna says, "I'd be curious to find out where this prophecy comes from." But she says there is a prophecy that says Trump will replace 5 justices. Kennedy is the second, and the other three will be taken off due to a scandal. Here's the thing. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is very, very, very old. I mean, I think she's in her early 90s, I believe. Like she's
94.
Yeah, she's old. And there's all kinds of pictures of her.
That's why I said she's older than dirt.
There's all kinds of pictures of her just slumped over sleeping. I really don't know how much longer she. I mean, I don't wish death on anyone, but 94, my goodness, there's not many years left for her. I would like for her, actually, this would be for her benefit, right? If she would just go ahead and retire from the Supreme Court, right? And enjoy the rest of her life. Instead of being a, judge, activist is essentially what she is now. Go ahead and retire. Enjoy what time you have left. Just enjoy it. You've served this country, whether I agree with what you've done, you've served this country for decades. Take some time for yourself. Kim Clement, then another Mark Taylor, Devonna says. I've heard of Mark Taylor. So the Trump prophecies, I believe. I haven't actually seen any of that stuff. I'm really skeptical when it comes to prophecies. I'm really skeptical when somebody tells me the Lord told me to tell you, right? I believe that if God has a message for someone to tell me something, that God will confirm that with me. So
yeah, and I mean even the Bible says that there will be confirmation. So I mean, you just don't take one single word. There needs to be confirmation.
Right.
That follows.
Now here's the thing. So we're gonna get back into. I'm not actually gonna pull up the scripture, but I'm gonna talk about it. You find in the Old Testament what it talks about prophets, right? Now you could have a prophet that gives 100 prophecies, and if 99 of them come true, but one does not, he is a false prophet, is not of God. So it's very dangerous to claim to be a prophet in the Old Testament. And then now those who give prophecies are not going to be stoned if they're wrong, but they can be rejected, right? So I mean, I've seen ministers, televangelists give prophecies and they don't come true. What that tells me is they are not of God. They are not of God. If you receive a message from God for someone else, you better be sure that is God. You better be sure about it. And if you're smart, you'll say, I believe that God spoke this to me for you. You should pray about it and seek God and seek the word to determine if that is in fact the case. Don't just take my word for it, but seek God. God will confirm it in your life. I would not be the guy that would be on television or on a YouTube video saying, so saith the Lord to you, this is what God means for you to do, or this is what's going to happen in the future. I might give my own personal predictions, but I'm not going to say, doth saith the Lord, it shall come to pass, right? That's not going to happen. Further, I mean, I've never had a revelation like that from God anyway. And I don't, so again, I'm just really hesitant when it comes to so-called prophets and prophecies. Devonna says, you need to ask God. I just rebuked a guy for saying, thus saith the Lord. Yeah. Unless you're quoting scripture, thus saith the Lord, because that is in the Bible. Unless you're saying that as a Bible quote. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. When you look in the Old Testament, you see to qualify as a prophet, one must be of the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? So it is impossible for someone not of the Jewish ancestry. It's impossible for someone not to be of that lineage to be a prophet. It's impossible. It's impossible. You have to be of that lineage to be a prophet. There are other criteria you find in the Old Testament too. All prophecies are consistent with all previous prophecies, right? The Lord is not going to speak a message for one person that is completely contrary to what he speaks to another, right? God's not going to give a proclamation, thou shalt, love the Lord thy God, and then also say, thus saith the Lord, I am one of many, right? You know what I mean? Like, they're going to be consistent with each other. You're not going to have one prophecy of peace and another prophecy of, destroy the world until, and kill those who don't believe until only you remain, right? Devana says, nah, all glory be to God. I am no one. Copped a loud mouth most of the time. So anyway, we're getting here talking about the Bible a little bit and prophecies, which is an interesting conversation to have. You see a lot of this in the evangelical realm of Christianity. You see a lot of the, thus saith the Lord and prophecies and self-proclaimed prophets. And like I said, that's a very dangerous position to be. To be a minister or an evangelist or a self-proclaimed prophet, you are held to a higher level of accountability than everyone else, right? Even if you yourself are a minister, but you weren't called by God to be a minister. If you lead others astray from the true gospel of Christ, you will be held accountable for that as a minister of God. So, and
I've seen it.
So it is a very serious matter to be ordained and to be a minister or to be a priest. It's a huge responsibility. You are taking into your hands the journey of those who follow you and are members of your congregation. And it is very easy for those people in those churches to trust their minister and be led astray and to be taught false doctrine and false theologies. What comes to mind is Joel Osteen and the, his prosperity gospel and all those prosperity preachers. And, they turned God into some cosmic ATM. You will be held accountable one day for that. I don't know what truly is in his heart. I really don't know. I'm not going to say that he's outright evil, but I don't know him. But I will say that what he's doing to the body of Christ, how he's amassed this huge mega church down in Texas, and how he's led so many people astray for his financial gain, I pity him on the day of judgment. I hope that before he takes his last breath, that he reaches out to God, sees the error, and comes to the real Jesus. Right?
As soon as you start to grow and get bigger, that's when the devil can step in and take a foothold.
Yeah.
Because that's where money is can be the root of all evil.
Right. I mean, absolutely, money is the root of all evil. I mean, if you look at like the last video we watched, the plan to save the world, right? If you look at all these criminals, the root of all of that is money. right? The love of money. It was all for their financial gain. And for that, they would cause the world to burn. They will be metaphorically Nero playing the lute as Rome burns, right?
Amen. No God's no glory. One of my friends there.
For every knee shall bend and every tongue shall confess. Yeah. Yep. That's a good scripture. Yeah. It's up to you to choose. Are you going to do it in this life or the next? But knee shall bow and your tongue shall confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. It will happen. It's better that you do it in this life, because afterwards it's too late.
Yeah, because then the Lord will say, I know not you.
He will.
And I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that.
Exactly.
I want the Lord to say, come, my child, you have done good.
Come, my good and faithful servant. Yeah. He will spit you out of the mouth.
Yes.
Depart from me, ye workers of iniquity, for I never knew you. You do not want to hear that on the day of judgment. That is what you should dread. I've got I do several different types of videos. So me and Kelly do these collaborations here, but sometimes I'll also do live streams for 20, 30 minutes or whatever out on the balcony, just me, where you can actually see me, right? And I'll talk about a topic. It might be news related or faith related, or it might be a tribute to something, or I might be telling part of my story, life stories.
That or post-traumatic stress disorder. Please watch that video. It is an awesome video, and share it with each and every person that you know. Chris did an awesome job on that video.
So I do have several topics I've been thinking about in the future there, so that I will be doing. Kelly and I, now we're doing today's Monday, but starting this Friday, we will be going live every Friday, barring some kind of family emergency or schedule mishap. Every Friday we will be going live following Mass Faith 3's live stream on Fridays. That is the plan.
/ resistance checks.
Yeah.
Depending on how their YouTube channels are working.
I think everybody in the chat that I see is already, I think, a subscriber to Mass Faith 3.
Except for No Guts, No Glory.
Right.
I don't believe is.
Well,
I'll have to send her a link to those guys.
Well, anybody watching this, I should have put a link in the chat in this video, but I mentioned them in a lot of videos.
I can do that really quick.
Yeah, go to Mass Faith 3, subscribe, hit the little bell icon on their channel. Leah and Michelle go live every Friday and Sunday, and sometimes they'll go on Wednesday, or they might have a little surprise. They cover the news, from like a conservative, well, I guess more of a libertarian and faith perspective. On Fridays, they do U.S. news, and on Sundays, they do UK and European news. And I will tell you this, that Leah does an amazing job assembling the news for Europe, especially for the European news, because a lot of the stuff they cover on European news, you don't see even mentioned on our mainstream media here in the United States. Right.
And they're virtuous Christian women.
They are. They're good women. Good women. I'm going to be honest, I really don't know Leah, really. I've only met Leah once. I've only really met Michelle once, but I do talk to Michelle.
I've talked to her several times.
And, well, I mean.
No, I shouldn't say several. Several since we've gotten the pigs, and prior to that and everything, I have talked to her.
So I am friends with Michelle, and I will say that Michelle is an amazing person, and she really loves the Lord. Thank you. Owen says, sub to Chris Holman. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I love all y'all that subscribe and watch and all that. I really do appreciate it. But Michelle and Leah both are just good, virtuous Christian women. They have big hearts and a love for their fellow man and a tremendous love for Jesus Christ. They're funny and talented and beautiful young women. So go check them out. Definitely go check them out. I had someone in the chat.
Michelle is a lot of fun. Les Resistance. Oh my word. When we went to see her, we had so much fun and we were laughing so hard. I mean, she is a riot to be around. Right. Oh my word, I love her so much. And I love Leah. And Leah is such a hard worker. Oh, and you know what? Everybody thinks that Matt is super quiet. Yeah, he might be quiet online, but you know what? He is such an awesome man to talk to. Right. I got an opportunity to spend some time, and actually him and I just get to talk when we were down there.
Right.
He is a really, really nice guy, and he's very, very open.
Right.
So whoever says anything bad about him, I'm gonna have to deal with Mama Bear here.
Yep. So in the comment section, I don't know if she's still here, but she was here for a little while. Sophia's passion for cooking. She's got some really amazing recipes on her YouTube channel. Sophia's passion for cooking. Go check her out. Let's see. Well, Kelly, you have your own channel, Kellie PB Fam.
Right.
Does B Lady have a channel?
Yes, she does.
So the B Lady Apiary.
That's I'll pull her up and put her in.
So check her out. Eric Butler, go check out his channel. So what? Of course, I'm gonna plug the Truth Factory. That one is a pretty fun channel to watch. Trying to see if there's anybody else in here that I know that has a channel to plug. Hey, if anybody in here, if you have a channel, and you know, Law Resistance said I subscribe to Sophia's channel. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I think you're gonna like her channel of Resistance. It's a really fun channel to watch. Mass Faith 3 says, sorry, y'all, farm chores called. Well, welcome back, Mass Faith. Glad to see you here. We're just plugging channels right now. We're pretty much coming to a close here. All the videos that we went over today, it was just 4 videos that we talked about as well. The links are in the description below. So let's see. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about, Kelly? Anything you wanted to bring?
Other than that, some of the things that we will be covering is going to be in regards to the VOP. We will be doing a series follow-up on that because it does have to do with, you know, our border and protecting our border. And but we're going to go a little deeper into that and look into that. I do have some really deep stuff, and I am going to go over it with Chris before we go into that, but there will be a series on that. I do know that. I do know that Chris has got a few series that he wants to do. Yep. And I have a series that I'm going to talk to him privately about. Yeah. I think everybody's going to really be intrigued with.
Again, I did this at the very beginning, but I'm going to go ahead and put it out again. There is a retraction. In the last collaborated stream that Kelly and I did, that was over the Maryland shooter. We provided a picture that was, we were under the impression was the Maryland shooter. It was in fact a staffer. It was not the shooter. I apologize. So that is my retraction. I do not want to report fake news. So if I report something that is wrong, or if I say something that is wrong and it's later proven to be wrong, I will.
Yes, it was up really fast and then it was down, and that was, you know, just unfortunately his picture got put up there and was grabbed, and unfortunately was put in there, and it shouldn't have been. And I also too retract it.
So I still believe that if that shooting was orchestrated, I do believe it was a false flag. But I mean, maybe not. I don't know. Eric Jonkus says Terra plot was stopped for July 4th. I had heard that there was a planned Terra plot for the 4th of July, but I hadn't actually looked into how much that is. But I will say that on a night when there is plenty of fireworks, to the untrained ear, it is very easy to mistake gunfire for fireworks. I'm just saying.
Exactly.
To someone who knows firearms and fires, has fired firearms quite a bit, there's a distinct difference in the way they sound. But to someone who's never been around firearms, they would not be able to tell the difference. So I'm curious to find out about this terror plot being stopped, which is great news, of course. We want terrorist plots to be stopped. Eric, do you know who was plotting it? Was this Antifa? Was it what kind of terror plot was it? Do you know? It was a guy. Okay. Devonna says a mortar round and a 30-30 rounds sound 30-30 sounds similar. No, they don't. No, they actually don't.
No, they do not.
But the types of fireworks that go off and go pop, 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 to the untrained ear, multiple shots fired, they wouldn't be able to tell the difference. To the untrained ear, someone who doesn't know anything about firearms. Kelly, I see you just put up for Eric Butler's channel. Can you put up So What 3s as well?
Yes, that's what I was thinking. I definitely wanted to put So What's up.
Yeah. So all of these channels that we're plugging here, go ahead and check them out. They're good channels.
So What 3 is a German, and he is very colorful in his language.
Yes.
So it is adult content. I am telling you that right off the bat. But if you do want to get some different insight, he is somebody that I do enjoy watching.
Right.
So, and we tolerate him in some of his things that he says. To a certain extent, we have to correct him.
Right.
But we love him.
A link I just put in there is, here it goes. That is for Lauren Southern's documentary Farmlands. You need to go check it out and subscribe to her channel. She's got some good, really good content. Trying to see some other people I'm subscribed to. A lot of gun channels. Of course, Demolition Ranch, but he doesn't need me.
Oh yes, we gotta watch Matt. We gotta watch Matt.
Well, he doesn't need me to plug him. He's got like almost 3 million subscribers. Like
between all of his channels, he's pushing almost 8 million.
Yeah,
between his 3 channels.
Yeah, he's a huge YouTuber. Coda Boy 32 Tactical. Love his content. Love this guy.
Hitchcock 45.
I haven't watched much of his content much. Tipping Point with Liz Wheeler. It's good stuff. Barbara For You to See. She's from Slovenia.
Channel.
She's from Slovenia. She's got some pretty good content, I'd say. Here in a sec, I'll pull up all their links here. I should put this out there that I am planning to do a follow-up to what happened down in... Is there an echo? I am planning on doing a follow-up on the Vegas shooting. Everything that we know up to this point, because a lot more information's come out.
Oh, yes. We've seen a lot more new information.
Well, Jordan B. Peterson. That's
Steven, what was that again, please?
Another good channel. Blonde in the Belly of the Beast, but she's getting ready to stop doing...
Steven, can you come back down here and tell me?
All right, so this is the last link I'm going to put in, but this is Blonde in the Belly of the Beast. So she is a conservative YouTuber. And here's the thing, she's getting married this month, and she's going to stop making content and start making babies.
88.
And so go check out her content, even though she's getting ready to stop content creation once she gets married.
Yep, right there.
Okay, I have
They are Big Gun Fanatics.
a really good channel that I never remember the name of it, so I always have to ask my son for it.
Anyway,
I mean, I am subscribed to him, but he has to give it to me. So I'm actually putting in my last one.
right.
These guys you really want to watch. They're fun. And their YouTube channel is getting attacked. Really bad.
Maya, go ahead. Plug Say Perfect. He's got some good content. Go ahead and plug him in.
YouTube channel alive.
Mass Face says, plug Say Perfect. Maya Atkins, we need some joy in the midst of all this. Yes, we do. Thank you, Maya, for going ahead and plugging that. But anyways, what I was saying about the YouTuber Blonde in the Belly of the Beast. So she's a conservative. She ended up in Seattle, super liberal area. And she basically, I think she just started content, 2.5 years ago, just to kind of get out there and cope with what she was living with. And at the time she was single, and she talks about a lot of the same kind of social issues, but she's very intelligent. And go check out her videos. There are amazing, well thought out, well presented videos. All right, well, folks, I think this is going to be the end for today. Kelly, I guess one little thing, you want to say something in closing?
I just want to say thank you to everybody that have came and watched and listened, and that you have a blessed 4th of July. Remember our fallen soldiers and our lost soldiers that have not come home yet, and that we have a free country. We remember that we need to stand together in the Lord as we go through this 4th of July, because I strongly feel, and many people said, that there's some things that are going to be going on, and we've already got one thing, it's already been stopped, and I thank the Lord for that. So I bless all you, I give all my blessings and prayers to you guys, that you have a holiday and enjoy it with your families, please.
All right. Owen says, glad to be here. Glad to have you, Owen. Thanks for coming. So
I love my Owen.
So I want to say this, that do not be disheartened by what you see in the news. They sell negativity. Know that Christ is making huge moves in the world. We have God on our side. That victory is within our grasp. that this will work out for the betterment of those who love the Lord, that there is a light at the end of that tunnel. There's so many great things happening in the world right now that's so underreported. We're winning.
There's a lot. There's a lot, and I've come through a lot. I've seen it where my husband actually told me I had to take time to breathe and get away from it because there's just been so much stuff covered up. So we've got a lot of things that will be coming out, and
so as I was saying that you know, we're winning here. I will say that it will likely get worse before it gets better. We're not going to steamroll over the enemy, the adversary. Know that we battle against. We do not battle against flesh and blood. There is a spiritual enemy behind all of this, and that is who we battle for. We continue to pray, Kelly and I, and you pray with us for God's will to be in our lives and those and in your lives, and that His will be done on earth. So everybody I hope everybody had a great day. I hope everybody sleeps well tonight. That you have a great 4th of July to all my American viewers with your families and those watching overseas. Also have a great week. If I invite you to celebrate the 4th of July, if you will. It's Independence Day for us Yanks here. So remember that God is love. God bless.